I feel like I'm being watched by the cat. Let me see.
Because she's crazy.
She's the perfect cat. I don't like the way you talk about my niece. And your granddaughter.
That's for you.
Do you want to do that? Because now that we have the thing, we could actually do it.
I have to redeem myself. Well, you can't post it.
Why can't I post it?
Because I might be able to see it.
Oh, you want to do it as if you can. Okay. So, hold on. Let me explain what my mom's talking about because I actually didn't put that in the last podcast. So, my mom wanted to see if she could name all 50 presidents, or I wanted to see if mom could do it without
46.
Give or take. And I ended up taking it out because there's no context because people couldn't see the screen. But as you guys can see, we now have a TV so that you guys can kind of make out what we're doing. It's a little tough because of the brightness, but I'm glad that we got this TV. What I'm not glad about is that my Apple keeps asking me to update for some reason. It's so annoying. Apple's got to fix that shit. Nothing's more annoying than when you're getting updates.
They're in one of my stories today, Apple.
Are they? Well, I think the biggest news this week that we didn't talk about was...
Wait a minute. I got to redeem myself.
We'll do it at the end. We don't need to do that now.
I don't know if it'll be all right. It'll be fresh. I'll know it in the end.
Well, if it's not always constantly in your mind,
right.
then who cares?
You're right. You're right.
Are you going to do them in order, too?
Yes.
Okay. We got to do an autism check on my mom.
Oh, not true.
Yeah. Anyway, so the biggest news this week, we'll just go right into it. Tucker Carlson and Don Lemon both got fired from their places. There's a lot of speculation.
I feel like that was a month ago.
It was like, right? That was last, I think that was Monday, right? I believe that came out on Monday.
No, Friday afternoon, right?
Maybe.
They did a Friday afternoon.
We didn't do a podcast last week because Kenny and I already banked one, remember?
Right.
So, because Kenny was here. So,
right.
That was a good podcast. For those of you that haven't seen it, go check it out. But, yeah, so Tucker Carlson gets fired. Listen, Don Lemon.
We don't know yet if Tucker's been fired. He still might be on the payroll. He was taken off the air, though.
Right.
Lost his show.
But the reason that, we both have our reasons of why we think he got fired. But I think it's really just they couldn't afford him after the whole Dominion lawsuit. I think we agree on that, right? I don't think, people are saying, it's something that he said or did. He's definitely, conservative, but that's what you get on Fox. But I think Dominion kind of...
I don't think it was... Well, Dominion wasn't directly related to Tucker. It was one lawsuit that Fox News with their other celebrities were, or I should say celebrities, they're podcast people, they're what's the term? News people were involved in or made comments about. But there was also a lawsuit coming from a producer who was involved in the Dominion case, who worked with Tucker Carlson. So the idea is Fox News, the family wants to sell Fox News, the Murdoch family.
Oh, they are?
Find a buyer. That's what the theory is, that they want out. And to do that, they have to mitigate lawsuits and whatnot, or potential lawsuits to make it more appealing to a buyer. That's one thought. Issue with that is their viewership is tanking. So I'm guessing they're hoping it was worth taking the hit and that at some point it'll level off the viewership. Yeah. And it'll be valuable enough to sell. I don't know.
See, I kind of took it the other way of, I technically was looking at it the same way, but to me it was more so the fact that Dominion won their lawsuit for $750 million. Tucker Carlson's annual salary was $80 or $100 million a year. It's insane. So I think they just physically couldn't afford him, and to your point, just said we're going to take the hit on this no matter what and try and fill the slot.
Well, the other thing is that's a drop in the bucket for the Murdoch family. So it was nothing for them to settle that. And many legal scholars are saying, why did they settle? They didn't have to. They had a very good case.
They could have just paid. Yeah.
No, they had a decent case.
Well, they could have settled either way, right? They could have done a...
Well, they did settle. They didn't lose the case. They settled.
Gotcha.
They said, we'll pay them off because they didn't want to continue litigation, which you could do that. A judge didn't decide that it was... They came to a settlement before was it jury trial before they came back with an opinion on it. So that was a small amount for them to pay in terms of the whole Murdoch media. Fox is just a portion of what Murdoch family owns. So anyhow, it was tied into that, and then all of a sudden you had Tucker Carlson being let go. Just a little suspicious of all the people with all the lawsuits that they've
I
had
mean,
over the
Tucker's
years. It has to
so
be him.
big on Fox. I mean, if I was to guess, he probably makes up 45% of their overall audience.
Yeah, he was
He's
their biggest
massive.
numbers.
Yeah, it's insane that they
Primetime
would get rid of him.
numbers.
Out of everyone that they should have gotten rid of, it was probably all the other ones. But yeah, I think they just, to your point, I think the Murdoch family has enough money that they could have kept him on staff and kept the show going for the ratings. But yeah, it's kind of a weird situation. But on top of that, Don Lemon at CNN gets fired. Now, he's not as big as Tucker from a views perspective. He's definitely up there, but I think he got fired for more of the reason that he was as woke as he is. He started going off the rails a little bit when it came to the more obvious things, if that makes sense. Like, obviously his political opinions are one thing, but then when they talked about like women's sports and stuff and how he's actually talking about like, wait, this doesn't make any sense. So he started to go a little more towards the conservative route on those topics, and they think that's why CNN, because there really wasn't any reason to fire him either.
I didn't see him going on the more conservative route. The final interview was with Vivek Ramaswamy. And Ramaswamy was making a very conservative case on this talk show with another announcer, a female, sitting next to Don Lemon, or another interviewer. And he was making his case for certain topics, that gun control and whatever else. And the answer from Don Lemon was, well, that's racist. It's racist. It's racist.
Right. It didn't make sense.
Okay. Not only did not make sense, Vivek Ramaswamy is a minority individual. He's an American citizen, but he falls in the minority class. So I think the tide is turning, and Don Lemon didn't have the numbers.
Yeah.
That a Tucker Carlson on the other side, or some of the personality, they were struggling to find a fit for him, and it was getting to the point of, why are we bothering? And I don't know why they continued to try and find a spot for him when he had made comments about women that
were kind of weird.
Nikki Haley was.
Yeah.
Old woman.
It's weird because, and this is what I think a lot of people are making the argument of, because when it actually came down to those topics, I think people are starting to realize that I don't think Don Lemon's as conservative or as woke as you think, and he's only been playing the part for CNN to keep his job. Because when you start seeing all the stuff they're saying about, like as I said, women's sports. I forget what the other ones were, but you could kind of see the conservative coming out in them,
Yeah.
So they think
I don't know.
that,
I've never. I guess I haven't heard those comments from him in terms of. But I mean, I'm of the opinion when you look at some of these strings that they have of, I don't know if they've done it for conservative sites. Maybe they have, but especially more liberal-leaning sites like the MSNBCs, the NBCs, where
Right.
people question, they're not leaning any particular way. And it's literally a talking point repeated by every one of them. You've seen those. I've sent you those clips where it's like 30 people saying the same thing over and over again.
exactly, line for line, like it's insane.
Right. It's like a talking point, and that becomes their headline, and every one of them has to say it, and it's almost literal, which is what's scary. So to say he's, more conservative versus others, I think a lot of them, they're just doing talking points. It's their
Exactly.
job. I don't know what some of them.
And most of them probably don't even do their own talking points. There's probably a bunch of people on staff that pick the topics that they're going to talk about and do it that way. I'm sure that's how ESPN does it too with sports.
Okay, but hence the problem with a Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
News is news. If they don't like the talking points, and he was becoming the most prolific one on the channel and it's been recent. So he's been hammering key topics, J6 videos, gun control, Ray Epps, topics that are taboo across the board for whatever reason. Not enough information, or people don't want to hear it, or blah, 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 blah. He honed in on that. And what's mind-boggling is more and more people are being drawn, viewers being drawn to his show.
Yeah.
That to let him go makes you wonder, is it more than just financial? Are they trying to send a message of, we control all media, and we're going to decide what's on conservative and liberal media?
Yeah. Well, right now all that's on Fox is Gutfeld, right? I'm sure they have some other shows, but Gutfeld's got to be number 2 if it's not Tucker.
Well, he's not prime time. He's considered 11 o'clock.
Oh.
So Tucker was big because it's prime time, like Hannity, Ingram. Sadly, I'm not even sure what the prime time. I think Anderson Cooper is considered prime time on CNN. I don't even know what the competition is on some of these channels because I'm not.
Gutfeld, I mean, I would say that he's probably the next. I mean, he's got to be number 2 if.
Well, The 5 is a show that's on. I don't know if they consider that prime time because I think that's on at 5 o'clock. and Gutfeld started, or that was his main show on the 5. He used to have a late night comedy show, but it was at 12 o'clock midnight. I only caught it a few times. It was purely comedic in terms of
like Gutfeld, in my eyes, from the little bit I've seen of him, it's news and conservative, but it's not like it's kind of like the happy-go-lucky sort of kind of it. You know what I mean? Where it's a little lighter. It's not like, oh, this is the doomsday of news. Whereas Tucker, it's like, this is going to be doomsday, like the hard facts and stuff.
But what I found, I don't watch Fox News that much, but what I found interesting was Tucker was starting to pull some of the celebrities on Fox News out of their shells too. And Gutfeld was making more comedy things about the J6 prisoners in jail and whatnot, about some of the topics that Tucker was talking about. But he would run comedy, you get away with a lot more. But I found it interesting that he was kind of forcing more and more people to start talking about those things, even if it was just to make fun of him for doing it. And that was on other stations too, which I think that's valuable. But my point is, the 5, I think, was their second highest rated show.
Second.
That's probably, and that's what Gutfeld's on with a few of the others.
So to bring this back to Tucker real fast, so we don't know what's going to happen to Don Lemon, but Newsmax is reportedly making an offer to Tucker Carlson for a lot more than just money. So it sounds like that they're going to give him the rights to the not only are they going to give him his own channel on there, like his own show, but he's going to have a lot of creative power when it comes to all the other shows that are on the network. Which is they haven't said anything about the deal, but I don't know what's on Newsmax. So I'm going to read this sentence to you. Newsmax, a fellow conservative leading media group, is reportedly interested in not just giving Tucker Carlson his own pre-time show on their network. Primetime, sorry. I'm still waking up. But allowing him to program the whole channel per TMZ. So, TMZ is not owned by...
I don't know who owns TMZ. That's like a news/entertainment industry type.
It is a Fox Corporation.
Interesting.
Wow. That's kind of funny considering... I guess they're all celebrity stuff, but... They don't really...
So are you understanding the reach of the Murdoch empire? Yeah. It's not just Fox News, although that is a big chunk. They are quite a bit... I will say this, and I can't comment on other channels, but Roger Ailes used to run Fox News. He started this concept of, I want fair and balanced, meaning conservatives and liberals talking about topics on the same channel, okay? Fast forward, a few years later, all these women started to bring cases against him, sexual harassment, right? They wound up driving him out of the company that he started over it. He died subsequently to that. Right or wrong, whether they had a case or not, obviously they were able to prove it. Some of these women made a ton of money and they're no longer on it. One of them, she's talking now since the whole Tucker incident, so she came out of hiding. Having said that, and Megyn Kelly was another one who testified. I don't think she brought charges against him, but she was involved in the case. They even did a movie about it. Prior to this happening, liberal media systematically made a point of saying we must get rid of Fox News. It was growing in viewership. Even though they tried to keep it fair and balanced, it was becoming more conservative. Systematically, they have attacked every prime person on that. Bill O'Reilly was high ratings on that.
Right.
Took him down with a sexual harassment lawsuit. Other women have come forward. There have been some other men that weren't as high, but they were released from the show because of it. Some are now on Newsmax, believe it or not. So it's an interesting thing that we've even had recently, prior to Tucker being taken out, you had Ocasio-Cortez making comments. He must be removed. Because they're fascist, he must be removed, which is an oxymoron. That's exactly what fascism is, to have media people removed or have speech removed. And then all of a sudden he was removed. So I just find interesting that there's been if you know the history of Fox News, there's been a systematic attack of that particular station because it was gaining popularity and gaining a lot of information, a lot of viewers. And now here we are, one of their top persons. It's becoming very obvious or evident that there's an issue here with Fox News. Why that station? Don Lemon being excused kind of mitigated a little bit the issue of one particular...
Isn't it weird how they fire each other at the same time? They both get fired at the same time? Like, in a sense of, it's almost like we knew Tucker has to go, but the only way people won't say anything as if we fire someone on our side.
Well,
right? Isn't
there are
that
no
kind of weird?
conspiracies, but there are also no coincidences.
Right. It's kind of weird. But it says that Fox Network saw an immediate dip in ratings. So we were kind of right. So Fox News reportedly lost around 600,000 viewers on average this week without Carlson in prime time. And then they averaged, Tucker's Tonight broadcast averaged around 3.2 million viewers, while the edition that aired the night of his dismissal only roped in about 2.6 million. So yeah, he probably makes up around 40 to 45% of their overall views. But the good thing is Tucker's going to be fine. Like wherever he goes, it's going to be the biggest, probably still the biggest conservative news besides maybe Bannon. But
well, Newsmax really wants him, and they could use it. That's a good platform.
Yeah,
because
I don't want to see him on Rumble. I can't. I don't want. I think he's got to stay away from Rumble. Rumble's got a little bit of a stigma to it of being a little too conservative.
Well, for your audience, right? Group of them. This is a TV station, and he's getting a lot of attention. He also was very much involved in Fox Nation, which I think was a subscriber service attached to Fox News, right? He appealed to the older generation who don't get their information from internet. They don't go to Rumble. They don't go to, America's News. They want it when they flick the TV on at night. And they would watch from dinner time on each successive show. Hannity, Ingram, whatever. I'm sure there are CNN people, same their demographics, same story. For Tucker to go somewhere other than a TV station, he's got to build with younger people. People that younger generation, meaning the ones that do that. Our friends last night, older people, they've turned to Newsmax already, and they like it. They never watched it before.
I've never heard of Newsmax before this. I'm going to be honest. I'm
because you're younger and you don't watch TV.
Yeah, I haven't turned. The only time I turn on TV is when I'm eating dinner or lunch. I'm watching HGTV. Hometown's my shit.
Well, Newsmax took some Fox personalities and brought others in that were there before.
Who's on there? I don't even know.
They have shows similar. I can't think of the guy's name. That's one of their main newscasters. He used to, Ed Henry. Ed Henry was becoming an up-and-coming contributor, they call them, at Fox News. He's now heading up one of their main shows in the morning. There are some women there that conservative news people that, I don't know if they were on Fox News or they were contributors, like low-end people, but meaning not well-known. But that's what I'm saying.
Do any of those names look familiar?
Tucker doesn't need... Eric Bolling, he was released from Fox News. Greg Kelly, same story. Sean Spicer was a contributor, and Greta Van Susteren. She was there prior to the Roger Ailes, or right around the time they brought charges against Roger Ailes. Yeah. So yeah, many of those are ex-Fox News people or liberal or conservative news media people. Having said that, it's on TV. Right?
Yeah.
That's the appeal for the older group and Fox News. Yeah, you can get it online, but they have a big chunk of their audience, the older audience, and some young people. They just wouldn't flick it on while they're watching TV. They're not going to go to the internet to get their information. So it's a good fit for Tucker Carlson to go to another TV station, in my opinion, versus just going to, say, a Rumble or to have his own Substack, whatever the internet media. If he wants to do that, that's fine. That'll still appeal to one group. But I think there's a need for the older, and I'll include myself in that, people that like to flick it on and watch it on TV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, so everyone's talking about how Don Lemon and Tucker should have their own show together, like First Take, where Steven and Max, remember the old days?
Well, I told you, that's what Fox News used to be. Sean Hannity used to have an ultra-liberal guy, I can't think of his name, Alan something, or Alec Allen, who died a few years ago. But yeah, they used to go back and forth. That's one of the first shows I would see on Fox News. That's how I was introduced to Sean Hannity and this other guy. I can't think of his name. Alan something.
Hannity. Counterpart?
Yeah.
Liberal.
Just put Alex something and it'll come up, or Alan something.
Counterpart. Alan Colmes.
That's right. Alan Colmes. Yeah. And that was the back and forth banter. And they would have guests on. There he is. The interesting part is they kept trying to do that, and over time they couldn't get any liberals to come on. They couldn't get. There's only a handful.
They're just getting rocked.
Right, there's only a handful of House representatives who understand that they have Democratic, who understand that they need to appeal to conservative vote, and they'll go on some of these shows. And likewise, you don't see a lot of conservatives invited onto liberal shows.
Right. They don't want the
right. They don't want to have to do that. So.
Which one of these do you want to do?
Well, you mentioned Apple. We could do the app. Which one?
Your Apple one.
Yeah, that one is kind of a follow-up. The Epic Games appeal. So Epic Games appealed. They took their case to a higher court. Apple declares victory. The appeals court sided with Apple over its App Store and fees. 30% of digital sales come from the iPhone apps for Apple. 2022, $71 billion in service revenue from.
Do you remember what this case was? Like the actual case? Because
yes,
I remember
Epic
this is like 2
Apple
years ago.
because it introduced its own payment system into Fortnite. Okay? Apple dropped Epic from the App Store because that's against their rules. You have to purchase everything through the Apple app because they get a piece of that revenue.
Oh, okay. So it's talking about, so to my mom's point, so I guess this has to be the mobile version of the app. You can buy, whether they like token, I forget what the currency in V-Bucks. You can buy V-Bucks through like the Apple carrier. And I guess Apple gets a certain percentage of that. So if you buy 1,000 V-Bucks for $100 or whatever it is, Apple probably gets a certain percentage, even though because it's through the App Store, even though it's all technically supposed to go to Epic. Like, it's not right that someone on PC pays for something that goes right to Epic, whereas through Apple you have to do that secondary business with Apple, I guess you could say.
Well, I guess Apple tried to introduce it right into Fortnite, so you can buy it through the game.
Right.
And
that's what it is in most games.
Apple didn't want that. Apparently they
You mean Epic?
No, Apple dropped Epic from it because Apple gets 30% of their digital sales. Their revenue comes from that. $78.1 billion in revenue comes just from the purchases through their apps, advertising ads too. So the court ruled Apple did not break any antitrust law or monopolize the market. But the court did say it did not overturn the rule that Apple allow links inside apps, so users can make purchases outside of the app. Which to me, I mean, there was like 10 things, and all 9 they won on appeal. But that last one, they said the court, they can have links inside apps.
They can have links,
inside the app to make purchases.
All mobile apps have that. It's just that Epic was pissed that Apple was taking a piece of the money that they're getting on all the other platforms.
I guess
so Apple was like, okay, fine, but that means that you can't be on the App Store. We're not infringing on any patents or anything.
Right. So Epic sued for that, and they lost, with the exception of the court saying that we're not going to. They didn't say you can't do it, but they didn't overturn that rule that Apple allowed the links inside apps, so users can make purchases outside the app.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not well versed in this with the revenue from the ads that you get, but
well, it's not from ads, right?
That's where a chunk of their revenue seems to come from.
Mobile gaming sucks.
This is specifically about the actual payment system that was built into Fortnite. I guess Epic tried to get around Apple doing it.
Yeah.
And Apple said, no, you can't do that. They're dropping them. So,
I mean, it makes sense. It's like having a free app. You have a free app on their app store that they have to pay servers for.
Right.
So they have to make money somehow. So Epic's kind of in the wrong on this one, in the sense of it doesn't make sense that they're doing in-game transactions with a middleman that's not getting any money.
Right, but I think they were trying to hit it under the Sherman antitrust, saying they're monopolizing the market. They won't let us have our own payment system, but
it's their market.
Using their app, they're using their platform to put the app on there. Versus Epic would have to set up their own platform.
I'd be curious if Amazon or Android has the same thing. I don't know how Android works in that sense, because I wonder if Android could sue for the same thing, or like does the same thing, because I'm sure they get a certain percentage of stuff off the Android marketplace, but I don't know who runs that. I don't know if that's a Microsoft or
was it Android Microsoft platform?
I believe so. I think so, but it depends on which version you have.
Oh.
Because like the difference between iPhones and most Android phones is like, you know how we're always locked to like a specific Apple software, like 16 or whatever.
Yeah.
Android, you can choose. So if you're not liking the one that you're choosing, you can go to a whole different software and use that on your phone.
Can you use Apple?
Technically, yeah, it's a pain in the ass to do, but you could do it.
Interesting.
But yeah, That's interesting. I'm curious to know. I can't really blame Apple. I can't say Apple's in the wrong for this one. I would have said the same thing that they said. What other ones do we have? I feel like do you have any other ones?
Yeah,
I know.
I got a few.
Yeah, you got a few. I'm just trying to see your other ones. I don't want to bring up my Gmail, but.
What's the next good one? Oh, Facebook.
Oh, that's a good one. Segue too.
Facebook, our buddy.
We call him the Zuck.
Zuck. Meta's doing better. Facebook stock soars as Zuckerberg explains how profitable AI experience is. So,
surprise.
Went to 52-week high. Zuckerberg integrated AI into advertising for Meta, which increased the user engagement, and revenue grew by doing that. So, I don't know what Reels, REELS,
that's their shorts system. So that's like their TikTok.
Okay.
That's their version.
The Reels monetization was up 30% on Instagram, 40% on Facebook. So, he said the AI integration has made the site more engaging. Naturally, that's going to bring more users, and with that, more people going to advertise, and you get more ad dollars.
This is good because I remember we weren't sure how Facebook was going to do their AI. Luckily, their AI is going to be their algorithms. So they put everything into their algorithms. I hope YouTube does the same thing. I doubt they will. Well, Google. It sounds like Google is going to focus more on their engines. Oh. So, kind of sucks, but whatever.
Well, that equaled in the first quarter $28.1 billion, which is 98% of Facebook's quarterly revenue.
Wow.
So it's a substantial amount. But however, there will be more jobs cuts coming at Meta, just to keep the costs low and to boost their profits.
No, I'll tell you why it is, because they saw that how Twitter's doing with the skeleton crew, and then they realized, oh, we don't need that many people working for us either. So that's why Facebook's following in their steps.
Remember the previous podcast, maybe it will be at least two ago, we talked about they hired all these people, paying them enormous salaries
for no work,
just to sit there to keep them from going to the competition. And in case they decide to go down a specific area that person has expertise in.
Right.
So a lot of them were underperforming and getting paid a lot of money, and they felt like their talents were being wasted. But they didn't care because aside from their salary, they're getting stock options and everything else. Well, welcome to the reality of the economy. And many of them said, we got to cut our costs. And that's one of the ways to do it.
So as much as they're bad-mouthing Elon right now for Twitter, they're just following in his footsteps. I saw yesterday Jack Dorsey was like, I don't think Elon should have bought Twitter. It's like, oh, now because all the government stuff's coming out that you've been working with the government for the last 10 years, now it's a bad idea.
And not only that, what did he pay for Twitter in terms of what did he get? It was priced a certain way, but he had no way of knowing what was behind those numbers because they inflated a lot of information. And now when
you're lucky Elon's not suing your ass for false for selling something that was basically a lie. What is it, false advertising technically?
Well, no, there's all sorts of rules and regulations about how you present a company and their stock value and everything else, what's behind it, and you could sue if you
He's fortunate because he wasn't necessarily the CEO at the time of buying, right? He's just a shareholder now.
Oh, Dorsey?
Yeah, Dorsey's not I don't think you could go after him anymore, but I think he still is a certain shareholder. I don't know. But, I mean, hey, Elon's killing it right now. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is what it is, and he quickly identified a lot of these companies. It's not just the tech companies. We've had this in a lot of industries. They get, too much money on their hands, and they have trophy employees, and they grow the company who can pay their people more, who could have the higher stock price, who could have the nicest HQ, right? Apple's building some ridiculous new facility to house their people in. All sounds great, but then one person comes in and says, this isn't the best way to run a business. I can make the stock even higher by getting rid of a lot of the fluff. It's like trophies for these individuals.
I mean, it is smart. You're buying up your competition so that they can't go and give trade secrets. So it is a good idea. But it was like $190,000 a year to basically a retainer fee. Right. It's like that's insane to me. But if you're that person, I don't know if I'd say no.
No, I mean, they were being honest. I'm not doing much, but it's paying the bills, I'm sure, and. However, we're seeing a slowdown in the tech industry, so now they're all starting to feel it, and the stock prices. I mean, this is good for Meta, because Meta was in the dumps for how long? It was going down with the virtual reality stuff.
Yeah.
So now they're honing in on other sources of income, and I think he's realizing to use the AI to improve the stock value.
I wonder if VR was just well, how do I put this? I'm wondering if VR was just a phase. And what I mean by that is like VR is fun and all, but it's not really improving in any way, shape, and form. I mean, after what we saw, and without going into detail, the New York City stuff, I mean, it's like we leaped past VR and now we're going right to AR, which is fine. Like now we have more use cases, but as fun as VR games are, there haven't really been any improvements that make me want to do VR. I haven't done VR in like a year.
Haven't. I haven't seen you pull that
because one, there's really no games for it. One, and two, just making sure the mic wasn't static. One and two, it's just like besides video games, there's no real good use cases for it. Mm-hmm. So we can go. But what I saw in New York City, like that's where all the stuff's really improving. Like that's where you're like, oh, this is the future. To the point where it's almost like we're going to get AR first and then VR. And it's going to be a better VR than we have. But I haven't done VR mainly because the podcast setup's here. And it hasn't improved. It's still freaking wire for the best stuff. Like, get rid of the wire and maybe I'll do it more. But
a wireless version, yeah.
Like Michael had.
It's coming, but it's just...
It's not the focused.
It's in its infancy, and it's not getting a lot of attention. Yeah. It's not being applied as much as it probably could be. And I just don't think there's a huge market for it yet, especially a commercial market. There might be one in the medical field. There might be one in the like production industry fields where it plays a role. Remember, you were involved in doing training. Yeah, the
AR training. But again, that was for real world use cases. I'm talking from like, as much as we love VR and the idea of it, it's really catered for gaming. There's really no other use case for it. You can't really do anything else with it except for those training videos that we did for another company. But
well, I thought they were doing stuff in the medical community with VR.
But in comparison to what the AR is doing now, it's like,
oh look, I grew.
yeah. You don't have to move that mic. The beauty of that mic is it's all cone based, so you don't have to worry about being close to it.
So but I thought they were doing more with VR in terms of the medical community.
But then when you see the advancements that AR has done in the last year, right, with the new quantum chips, like VR is like just a thing of the past now. After what I witnessed, so I think VR is only going to be good for gaming. There's really no other use cases for it anymore. So that's a little insider information that I have.
Your opinion.
Based on knowledge, based on what I've seen. But yeah, so I hope VR becomes better, but I think the world's going to focus more on AR now than VR. So I think it's going to
says Chris.
I think it's going to go back to AR, make that the best thing, and then VR. So I think VR is not going to be good for another 10 years.
Yeah, possible. I mean, Meta's virtual reality was indicative of that. It didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah. Speaking of failures, speaking of VR failures, Dylan Mulvaney speaks out on the Bud Light backlash. Did you see this?
No.
So, well, we talked about it, but I didn't realize. So, for those of you that don't know, like the reason that okay, how do I put this? So Bud Light decided to hire a new PR lady, like to do all their press stuff, and the lady goes, "Let's get Dylan Mulvaney on," and just tank their stock by like, I mean, they lost like $60 billion or some crazy number. Now they're trying to basically backtrack everything. And all these companies who kicked out, like all these bars that kicked out people for the anti-trans stuff for losing money, like it just complete backfire. Yeah. Like there was no success to this whatsoever.
Nothing.
But Dylan Mulvaney speaks out,
and now Bud Light has to pay a fortune to do another ad campaign to try and bring back people.
That's tough.
Waste.
That's tough. No offense to Bud Light, but from what I hear, your beers aren't that good in comparison to everything. It's just cheap. So this could be the end of Bud Light. One thing, but they fired that lady like the day after. Yeah, like they watched the stock and they put her on leave.
Yeah. Yeah, she's gone.
Yeah, she's shot.
And then the executive they came in, I think he left too. They got rid of him too.
Yeah.
Shuffling like crazy to try and fix
this this is literally the biggest flop in maybe the alcohol industry history, right? But anyway, so Dylan Mulvaney basically has been quiet on this whole thing, hasn't posted since. I didn't realize, I don't follow Dylan, so I don't know, but it basically went on a tear about like how this is transphobia and all that stuff, and then goes on to say, which for those of you that don't know Dylan, there's usually a little bit of a joking tone, if that makes sense, but said that all people who misgender, it should be illegal to misgender people. And it's kind of that tone where, like, you can't really tell if it's a joke or not. But, of course, people are going to lean towards the, like, basically, Dylan tried to make up for it and just ended up shooting herself in the foot. And it's just not looking good for Dylan right now.
Right.
Not great. But, yeah. So they said, struggling to see the need to dehumanize must be cruel. You know? And then
I think, unfortunately, the trans community, what usually happens is you get these trends, and the trans community is pushing too hard, forcing a narrative on people that a company like Budweiser got sucked up into.
Bud Light.
Well, Budweiser owns Bud Light.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Yeah, Budweiser.
I don't know my beers. My mom worked in a liquor store, so I'm going to go by her.
It's not about that, but it's Budweiser. So they got sucked up into it, as other companies have, right? And they didn't realize the backlash, and now they're starting to see it. And they're trying to label everything transphobic, trans this, anti this, racist that. People aren't buying that anymore because they've labeled everything as transphobic or racist or whatever. And when it comes to buying goods, you can't force people to accept a product if they don't want to. You can't force people in this country to buy something. The only way you could is if the government eliminates every beer, and that's the only beer that there could be.
Right.
Well, that's not an option. Right.
Can't
and that's not going to happen. So, or at least not right now. But having said that, I think it's more a lesson. And when I'm looking online, I'm seeing more and more articles, interestingly enough, people in the gay community with a backlash on the trans.
Yeah, but you don't hear about that.
Well, you're seeing more of it, and they're really getting tired of it because they're getting roped into an area where everything's becoming vague.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So you literally have transphobic people are becoming a threat, or I shouldn't say the people. The movement is becoming a threat to females.
It makes people more, quote-unquote, transphobic because of how much you're trying to affect their life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're pushing them the opposite way of where you want them to go.
Right.
But the other thing I didn't realize was, I thought they were changing all of their beer like containers to the Dylan Mulvaney thing. I didn't realize it was just like one product of beer.
No, it was just the one Bud Light.
I didn't realize that it was just like a piece. What's up, Bobo?
But I also understand she just signed on with Maybelline.
What's Maybelline?
Maybelline is a cosmetic company. Big
cosmetic
company.
Well, that makes sense. Like, of all the things that you shouldn't have done, it was probably side with... I mean, again, it's not Dylan's fault. It's more so Bud Light or Budweiser trying to push into a...
well, now, hold on. I disagree with that.
Why?
Because there are many commercials with trans individuals that did not receive the backlash. Dylan Mulvaney is an individual that, as a transgender person, can be very abrasive towards people that don't accept that ideology. Right. It's not like it's just a trans person in a commercial. We've had plenty of that, and nobody minded
saying it doesn't make sense for a beer company to have anything to do with a gender person.
There's more alignment with Maybelline.
Heterosexual, it doesn't matter. It's just, so there's an alignment with the cosmetic company. That makes sense. Of all things, why would a beer company go to someone like Dylan Mulvaney?
It's a beer company having a transgender person in their commercial. Nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. They made the whole commercial around this individual, and I'll be fair. In all honesty, I never saw the commercial, the actual commercials or whatever. But that particular individual, there's now some question about his background, her background as well. Mm-hmm. Been on game shows as a man, game show after game show. Is this really an ideology that they're embracing, or is this some sort of publicity stunt to get your name out there? Now, all of a sudden, a nobody who's on game shows is now getting herself into the White House.
I don't blame them for that. Like, to me, that's just someone trying to make a career.
No, I blame them because they picked a specific trans person, and you could do that, but they didn't realize how much this individual is negatively being perceived by people in the non-trans community.
I think you're agreeing with me then, in the sense of, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I don't know why Bud Light picked this person. Like, I don't know why they decided to sponsor or do anything with them.
Specifically that person. Yeah.
To me, that's just Like if Budweiser came to us and said, "Hey, we want to sponsor you," I'm not going to say no. It doesn't make sense because, again, we're not even beer drinkers, but it's still sponsorship. So I can't blame Dylan Mulvaney for building up an audience and then taking on a brand deal with a beer company. That's on the beer company for picking Dylan.
Right. I understand that, but to say
I don't blame Dylan for really
picking a trans person for a Bud Light, I don't have a problem with that because trans people are in all commercials. So that's not my issue.
Right.
It's that particular one that I think they've learned a lesson. A lot of baggage comes with Dylan Mulvaney. She's not necessarily the best representative of the trans community.
Agreed. That's fair.
By both trans and non-trans people, because there's more to the story than just, oh, they're attacking a trans person. It's a particular trans person.
Right. Dylan's definitely said some stuff that, even if it is joking, it can be perceived by people who don't know them as how do I put this? So I can see how someone who doesn't know Dylan sees Dylan and sees that there's a big problem. Like, this is just a crazy person. If you don't know that there's jokes involved, yeah, I could see that. Now, it is hard with someone like Dylan. Are they joking or not? And there are a lot of comedians out there that are the same way. But it's very hard for me to pin it all on Dylan, because they just wanted the brand deal.
Yeah, I'm not pinning it on that individual. I'm just saying Bud Light, Budweiser, may have learned a lesson that other orgs should learn. If you're going to pick somebody that represents a particular community or group of people, you better do some more background searching or a testing of the audience before you assume that just because this is the most vocal and out there right now person of the moment in that community, that's not necessarily the best representative of that community.
But I don't know who the best representative of any community would be. You know, like, who else are you going to pick? RuPaul, who's just drag, not even trans. So like,
again, there's plenty commercials that have trans people in it, right? And
to pick a spokesperson. I see what you're saying.
Caitlyn Jenner. You know, I mean, there are other people that might have been more receptive by the Bud Light audience than you take somebody who's gone out of their way, in my opinion, to mock being a female by her very presence. So, you know, I'd be labeled transphobic. Okay? I don't have a problem with transgender people in general. Most people would say they don't. We could have an old discussion about the validity of it, the mental health side of it, etc. But I feel like this particular one has gone out of her way to present herself in a take it or leave it, shove it down your throat, you know, blah, 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 and like it whether you want to or whatnot. That's just not the best way. You know, Caitlyn Jenner, as another example, that's different. She's just
I wonder if they
life.
could have. Yeah, I wonder if they could have afforded Caitlyn Jenner. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure they could, but from a brand deal perspective, it's probably much cheaper to get someone like Dylan
Maybe they
Mulvaney.
asked her and she didn't want to do
exactly,
it. I don't know, but you know, it's just they grabbed somebody who's hot commodity in the moment.
Right. Well, they're going after let's really break this down. Ready? They're going for TikTok influencers. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I see a lot of these TikTok influencers. They're not exactly the best people in the sense of, you know them as dancers or whatever they're doing. Mm-hmm. You don't know their whole persona. You know who Tucker Carlson is. You know what he's going through, what kind of person he is. You can't base a whole product and brand deal based off a couple TikToks. You know, it's kind of the worst way of doing stuff, but or picking people. But
it's not just TikTok. She met with the president of the United States.
This was after the fact, though, right?
After the fact of what?
Right, was that after the Bud Light deal, or was that before?
This was a while ago.
So I guess I just don't know Dylan Mulvaney in the sense of how big they were at the time.
Thing beforehand about what I'm going to wear when I meet the president and what it means to be female and I don't even follow this individual, and I knew about it. And then all of a sudden, the president of the United States takes the time to meet with this individual. Now, for somebody like me, certain transgender individuals, I find some of their comments and the way they behave to be anti-female, and I have a problem with that. They're trying to erase what it means to be a female. I have a problem with that, and I don't appreciate any president taking something like that in and meeting with that person and not reaffirming, you know, you got a right to live your life, but so do a lot of women.
the credentials though of what I mean is like the credentials of TikTok. If you were hiring based off kids' TikToks, I mean your company would fail. You know, it like doesn't make sense.
Right.
Like here's a like. I mean, I'm trying to think of how to put this without like being quote unquote rude or mean, but like if you owned a company and you had to do a brand deal with someone, I understand TikTok's the biggest influencing thing right now, like because it's all 1 minute. You're not going to get anything out of 1 minute videos.
Yeah.
Like imagine if that was the resume someone handed you. Here's my TikTok videos. This is why I'm good for your brand. No, like,
Right.
like
Right.
there's really nothing else. I'm sure they do a certain vetting process, but what value are you bringing to the table for that brand deal? Like if it was like, to your point, Caitlyn Jenner, who has all these accolades from before and current, that makes sense. But someone like Dylan Mulvaney, who has just met the president, and I don't know what they've done beforehand, fashion or maybe it's like what's the?
It was an extremely bad choice
Yeah.
by that company.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it makes no sense for that brand.
Yeah.
If you're trying to appeal to the transgender audience, there are many other maybe athletes, politicians.
Yeah, you
maybe
could have
they
done
don't do
any.
that.
That would have been If you wanted to do it would make more sense for Bud Light to do someone like the what's the name of that the female swimmer?
Oh, Leah Thomas.
Yeah, Leah Thomas. It would make more sense because athlete. If you want to do someone, at least there's a certain accolade to that, right? Even
See,
if you
I
don't
don't
agree.
think of Leah Thomas. I think there's too much controversy behind that
Agreed.
individual too.
But I'm just thinking from an accolades perspective of who's being talked about more.
Right.
Before all this, I mean,
Right.
yeah, I don't know who you would pick.
Also,
in
the point is, why is it just that association? Like, why all of a sudden does Budweiser decide we need to appeal to that particular group?
Right, that's what I mean.
It's
Like, what's
fine
your
to
demographic?
Right, it's fine to include them because they're part of our national fabric. But what was the connection that we really want to sell beers to transgender people?
If it was during February, right, which is the trans month, like the LGBT
What isn't
month.
the trans month now?
You know what I mean? Is it February?
I don't know. There's a
when this
Pride
was.
Month coming up.
Pride
There was
Month.
there's
Like maybe at
different
that
things.
point it would have at least made sense, but this was kind of out of nowhere. You know?
Yeah, I agree.
So I don't know why. I don't know what they were thinking. But well, then again, it was that lady that they fired.
Well, and it was a mistake. They
Yeah,
lost money
absolutely.
and they've lost people buying, and there's plenty of beer products out there that people have no problem switching. That's the other side of it too. You know, some people are tied to Coke versus Pepsi. But if there's an alternative, it's very risky when you do these ad campaigns and you don't. Obviously, they put somebody in there. I don't know what level of control she had or autonomy to make these decisions, but it turned out to be a pretty bad one. It cost them money if the metric is money, right? If your metric is losing money, which it's a corporation, they have stockholders. They care about that.
Yeah.
They don't want to lose money on these frivolous type of
Absolutely,
advertising. So,
yeah.
since you mentioned that, my other article is about the TikTok influencers. So this was kind of interesting. DNC pays the TikTok influencers $210,000 to support Joe. Okay? Palette Media Manager manages over 60 social media influencers, with many young artists part of the liberal groups like Gen Z for Change. Okay?
Okay.
Also, they manage two of the largest Democratic social media content creators on TikTok. Henry Sisson, do you know him? And
I'd have to see
Chris
their face.
Mowry. One of whom, interesting enough, just went silent after this article came out.
No.
He's taken himself down. Okay?
Probably this
Now,
kid.
there's nothing wrong with that. They're able to manage these people. That's not a problem. Records show, however, and interesting enough, other influencers did the research, went online to some sites to find out the story here. Records show that $210,000 was paid to Palette Media for advertising expenses.
Okay.
Other influencers became suspicious. They checked out the filings on the federal FEC, Federal Communications, Federal blah, blah, blah website. Problem these influencers count as if they're promoting their beliefs in an unpaid. Oh, the problem that they had, these two people in particular, they act as though this is the term is organic. Like, oh, I want you to support this president because I think he's really great, or the ideals or whatever. That's how they were acting as. But what they didn't mention was that they were being paid to do this.
Right.
And you have to mention that.
Now,
because-
again, this goes back to what we just talked about. Why are we going to TikTok influencers for any political knowledge.
Because they have enough people
follow
of
it,
a particular age group that they
exactly.
can
They
reach out
can
to.
reach out to the 13 to 14 or 13 to 18 range. Right? Yeah, that's
and
that's where it gets
frankly,
scary.
if they have, how many subscribers did I say they had? Did I say
Probably a decent amount.
a few 100,000?
Oh, that's not very good.
A few 100,000, but $210,000 is nothing, in my opinion. That's a drop in the bucket for what the DNC has, which makes me wonder, is Palette Media really up on these things? Because they probably could have gotten more if they attract a big enough audience.
Yeah. Again, I know you can make the argument, well, if we can't go to TikTok and we can't go to mainstream news, where do we go? Yeah, the answer is not. I would rather you watch mainstream news than TikTok for information on news. Right? like again, people will tell you stuff and you can look into it, but you can't be going by these people on why. Like, I just don't understand that. You can't go to another 16-year-old for politics. If it's Candace Owens, that's different, but she's got her own stuff. Like, who are these kids?
Well, it's not that. It's if you're going to listen to young people, and maybe some of them are very knowledgeable, who might have judged, right?
Bretta, what's her name? Bretta.
But you got to make it clear that you're being paid to do this.
Yes,
you can't
absolutely.
make it sound like, this is just my opinion and whatnot. Nobody's paying us, by the way. Nobody's sponsoring us to do this.
Yeah, no, we just...
That makes a difference. If somebody were paying us, you have to disclose that. You're supposed to disclose that. It's a bit unethical to make it sound like this is my opinion, but it was paid for.
That's illegal to do on YouTube. Like in
there's
YouTube,
election commission rules and regulations about that you have to.
Yeah, if it's government, I don't know if that's any different from like other brand deals. Like when we do a brand deal, it has to be you have to file it.
Yeah, there are rules for elections of what you file, and you have to let people know what you're paying for election. Likewise, you're seeing side argument, but people also saying if you withhold information that could influence an election, like we've seen with recent stuff, that could be considered an in-kind contribution to an election because you're using your business and making a contribution of your services. You have to declare that in an election. So anyway.
Yeah, it'd be technically campaign funds that.
It's a form of funding
What's
that's
the
not
word
dollars.
for that? What's it called when you try and force someone to? I guess it's bribery, right?
For somebody?
What's it? No, it's not bribery. When you pay someone to campaign for you, and you take it off the books. There's a word for that.
Take it off the books. Campaign and take it off the books.
It's when you don't
pay somebody under the table. You mean?
No.
I don't know what you mean.
Ah, man, I don't know. Never mind. But there's definitely a law or a rule and a saying behind it. I just don't know what it is.
Well, there's something called in-kind contributions to something where dollars don't necessarily change hands. It's a service that you did, or it's because you did it. There's a value to it that you can assign to the process. It could be anything. It doesn't have to just be in politics. But anyhow, it's as we go into another election season, people might want to be aware that there's a lot of individuals out there that act like, I support this particular candidate for whatever reason, only to find out, well, they've been paid to say that. Do they really believe it, or is it because they got a paycheck? Questionable.
But the real question is, Mom, what's the fastest way to be an influencer?
I don't know.
Lose weight.
Really?
So speaking of Eli Lilly, no, that's just my segue. I don't think that's true. But Eli Lilly seeks FDA approval for the diabetes drug used for weight loss. We talked about this between you and me. Yep. So we were talking about this the other day. So we've talked about it on the podcast before, a couple podcasts ago.
Yes.
The Ozempic pandemic or epidemic. I forget what the difference is. But so Eli Lilly,
It's not a small company, Chris.
It's not, yeah, whatever. But they, where was I going with this? Oh, yeah, we were talking about how Ozempic, the weight loss drug, people were using it to basically lose weight, right?
And
people are taking
Wegovy,
yeah. And now so many people are using it that they said, let's just get an FDA approved weight loss drug. So it's like this kind of goes to show you the problem with big pharma. It's like it's not about your health or this one kind of is, but it's not about like how much they care about you. They just know that they can make money. They've been able to do a weight loss drug for how many years now with this? When was the diabetes medicine created?
I have no idea. I mean,
So But that's what I mean. But now we're catering towards weight loss. Now, what's great about this is, yes, we get to lose weight. I get to eat what I want, lose weight. And it's probably cheaper.
Jeez.
But I just thought this was hilarious.
Well, it's really, all these drugs are meant for people who have type 2 diabetes.
Yeah.
Because it has shown if you drop the weight, it helps your diabetes situation. They've been able to reverse type 2 diabetes in individuals by doing stomach bypass surgery,
Right.
which is incredible, but those are extremely obese individuals.
Yeah.
Well, naturally, it's about controlling blood sugar, and when you do that, you can control the weight.
Right.
It's great for people with diabetes. I don't know how to respond to that, because pharmaceutical companies, with all the issues in the world that we have and medical issues, thank God we now have not 1, not 2, but 3 medications to treat, type 2 diabetes and weight gain, or blood sugar levels, which is important. I'm not saying that, but
the question is, when they do make this, right, and they make this drug to the people, one, is it going to be cheaper or more expensive? Because everyone's going to want to lose weight without actually doing any work. So that's fantastic. But are they going to be taking away from people that actually have diabetes and moving it over? Is this hey, we can make more money off of a weight loss alternative than we can make on the people with diabetes because it's a less audience?
Now, what you have to understand, and I don't know the answer to this because I'm not well versed in it, but if it's simply a weight loss drug, insurance doesn't necessarily pay for it. If it's a weight loss drug for diabetes, your insurance will pay for it. So if this drug is $100 a pill and you have good insurance and you have type 2 diabetes, insurance might pay $80 of it, and each pill's $20, or injection, whatever it is. If you're just doing it for weight loss, you're paying the full $100.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a reason why it's targeted as a type 2 diabetic drug, but that helps for insurance purposes. Mm-hmm. Now, I laugh for all these individuals out there who are obese, like, for instance, Lizzo, who likes to talk about how healthy she is because she's overweight. She's not helping all the people out there when a drug like this comes along, and they can make the case that if you lose weight, you're going to be healthier. Mm-hmm. So I think all these drugs, to be used for obese people, whether or not they have diabetes or not, there's a case to be made that it should be covered under insurance.
Right.
But not when you have other people out there squawking about how, oh no, just because I'm obese doesn't mean I'm unhealthy. They better get their act together here, because if obese people who are not Lizzo decide they could use this to lose weight, but they don't have diabetes, so the doctor won't prescribe it, they're going to say, you know what, let's make the case that I could use to lose the weight.
Yeah. But what I mean is, like, if they're making crazy amounts of money on a weight loss pill, and it's the same medication used for diabetics, what stops Big Pharma from going, oh, let's just stop making it for the diabetics and then just focus more on the weight loss because we're making money? I think that is something that Big Pharma would do. And then
they don't have to do that because insurance will pay it. I mean, insurance industries, they can flow money to you like nobody's business. So for pharmaceutical companies, they love the idea of insurance companies paying. That's a steady stream of income, right? That's coming in. Individuals, now you will get into areas where the government will have to subsidize it for low-income individuals, et cetera, if you're diabetic and they want you to have that. Like I said, there's a lot going on than just one group of people taking it.
Right.
Now, as we said about the other drugs, the Kim Kardashians of the world, not saying she takes it, but if they use those things, odds are, they're just paying the doctor for it. That's a drop in the bucket for them, right?
Right.
That's not a big deal for them. The issue I have is, like, some of the other drugs, now they're saying people are losing their hair from it.
Yeah.
So
the side effects that people don't, you hear weight loss and you go, yes, and then you take it right away, and then you don't manage any side effects. Because look at it this way, right? It takes, as we know through what we know about medicine, it takes 7 years to go through a trial, right? So how are you going to push a weight loss drug that we just kind of found out about 6 months ago?
No. This has gone through trials.
It has the whole weight loss thing too?
I believe it went through the FDA. They approved it. Or it's in the process of getting the FDA approval, right? So it's going through the whole approval process.
You're telling me that got through 7 years of trials, and we've never heard about it? We've never heard about this weight loss drug that would be the number one talked about thing in the last 7 years?
They don't necessarily give out that information. You know, they keep this trade secrets. But the other ones, I believe, the Ozempic and the what's it called? Wegovy. I believe they went through the whole procedure. But let me tell you something.
Right,
there are people out there that believe
diabetic medications. That's the difference, though.
This is diabetic also. Type 2 diabetes.
Right. This one's just for weight loss. This
it's not.
For diabetes drug to be used for weight loss.
Medication used to control blood sugar for type 2 to be used for another purpose, weight loss. So
Pharmaceutical company Eli Lilly is pushing for FDA approval for tirzepatide, a medication used to help control blood sugar for type 2 diabetics, to be used for another purpose, weight loss.
Right. So they want the FDA to approve it as a weight loss, as well as what it's already approved
I
for
thought it was
type 2
saying
diabetes.
See, I read that differently, and I maybe it's just the way I'm reading it. I thought they were making a whole new drug that has the abilities or capabilities of the diabetic medications without whatever they need.
No.
Otherwise, we're just taking diabetic medicine.
Right. Well, but they're going through the FDA approval to find out if you could just use it for weight loss.
For weight loss.
Right.
Okay.
Because it's originally meant for blood sugar levels, but that's weight loss. You're controlling blood sugar levels, right?
Right.
The problem, and for diabetics, you have to be especially careful because they have to balance it, and that's why. And maybe it's a good thing. I'm assuming the other two, they might not have gone through the FDA approval process just to use it for weight loss.
Right.
So that's why it's questionable because people are using what's supposed to be for diabetics purely as a weight loss without FDA approval. Now, because of that, insurance companies won't pay for those other two for weight loss. Right? So that's where you get into an area where it makes sense to do that.
School to pay $1 million after a boy who ate teacher's snack died. God damn.
Had peanuts in it.
Yeah. Why do you put? Why? I like how that's in the center.
Well, it's an embedded story, but yeah. So it's an interesting area, but that's the part I find funny when I hear so many overweight people and people defending overweight people as it being healthy. Stop it. It's not healthy.
I mean, there's no scientific article or study done that says otherwise. Like, where are you getting this from?
Right.
Right. But speaking of drugs, I talked about this one last night when the Gretas were over. Junkies turn NYC subway into a needle graveyard filled with hundreds of syringes. So I thought this is what saddens me about New York City, right? I thought that they were just doing their drugs in the subway and like just going on about their day. This subway has basically been turned into I'm trying to find the line, but basically this is one of those legal drug areas where basically doctors or someone who has some certificate is sitting in a subway that New York City has sectioned off, and they said, hey, you can do drugs here. We'll allow it because you're under our supervision. Look at this picture, Mother. This is what I was talking about. Look at all those needles. Can I make this bigger? How ridiculous is this? Mm-hmm. Now, it's in the train tracks. Hopefully no one goes down. But, like, you have open needles in the train track subway. I forget which one this is, but, I mean, New York is just becoming a lawless shit show. Mm-hmm. So, I mean...
It's not just New York.
Right.
This goes on everywhere on the West Coast in the major cities. There have been videos of kids getting off of the MTA buses and walking past people shooting up heroin on the street. You know, little kids with backpacks going to school, and people saying these kids have to deal with this every day. It
says right here, the Post recently witnessed a half dozen junkies injecting themselves there just a few yards away from parents and elementary school children.
Yeah, that's how many kids get to school every day.
Yeah.
And this is what they have to walk through with all the crime and everything associated with it.
And remember, this isn't just junkies. Again, this is the part that is crazy to me. It's not even that they're junkies that just got drugs and came to the subway. Right. They are legally dealing in this subway, right? There's a guy there that goes, you want to do drugs? Government allows it. I'll sell it to you for X amount of dollars. You can shoot it up right here. You're under our supervision. And then just throw it into the train tracks.
Well, I'll blow your mind even more. There are some states where your tax dollars pay for those drugs.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Because they feel like it's better if we control their supply and get the pushers off the streets. Well, guess what? The pushers don't go anywhere.
How many of those states are conservative?
Yeah.
And how are those conservative ones doing?
Yeah.
Tim Dillon did a whole thing I thought was so funny on why he's so sad Lori Lightfoot left, but it's a joke. Yeah. And he's like, man, that Lori Lightfoot really screwed screwed her city.
Well, it's not much better now with the new person coming in.
I know.
But if in general we as a nation do not get a handle on this,
Yeah, this is a really big deal.
this
in the
is
sense
part
it's
of the
getting really
destruction from within. We are destroying an entire generation, let alone we now have young children that walk past that every day on the way to school. You think that's reinforcing good drug habits in these children as they grow up?
No.
It's become acceptable part of their society. I didn't grow up going to school watching junkies on the streets.
Yeah.
I didn't see that till I went to college and happened to walk through New York City, and it was only in quote unquote certain neighborhoods. You guys didn't grow up with that. It makes a difference when kids have to grow up in that environment. And the irony is, for years, all I ever heard was, these poor kids in these inner cities have to deal with that. So instead of trying to fix it, they've just made it pervasive everywhere.
Right. It's insane how
Yes.
bad it's gotten. But what is this last one?
My
Massive
last
blue
one.
hole discovered off
Yeah.
the coast of Mexico. We talked about this last
Talked
night.
about this last night. It's fascinating, okay? This is the second largest blue hole off the coast of Mexico. It's a sapphire sinkhole. It was discovered in 2021. We're only getting info about it now. It's called the Karst Formation, K-A-R-S-T. They're vertical marine caves carved by glacial runoffs during the Ice Age. And they just come out of the blue, and
But
open up.
what are they? They're just
They're giant sinkholes. Okay, they
So-
go down into the
What is this?
seafloor, right? This one they're calling the Tamya, T-A-A-M.
The Tamya.
Which means deep water in Mayan language, which is off the
Ooh.
coast of Mexico, right? Mayan. It's 147,000 square feet wide and 900 feet deep.
Wow.
There is a larger one. It's called the Dragon Hole in the South China Sea. That one's 980 feet deep. Now, no currents flow through it because they're deep walls. They're at an 80-degree
Right.
slope. But on top, there's a thin layer of fresh water. That keeps oxygen from getting into the salt water underneath, and instead it's filled with a poisonous hydrogen sulfide gas.
Oh.
That's what makes it very difficult to explore.
Right.
It's not it's not
not
only
safe.
deep, but it's very difficult for people to go down there.
That does look really cool though.
But with the lack of oxygen, it does allow things to be preserved, almost like fossilized inside there, because nothing's breaking down with
right.
oxygen.
Whoa.
They've discovered a bacteria that can survive without oxygen in 2012 in a blue hole in the Bahamas. So there are other holes, but this one's just the second
Right.
largest. They've also managed to find a plastic bottle in one, which I was laughing, of all things to go down there, a freaking plastic bottle. Next thing they'll find a straw. But anyhow, that's I didn't even realize these things existed. I think under earth changes open them up even further or expose them, and then they find these things in the ocean, and there's so much information in them. If they could study them more, they could probably find out a lot.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. This
Yeah.
is like a 3D image of the hole's depth.
Well, and as we know from here on Earth, not just in the ocean, but on Earth, the deeper you go, the more you learn about previous times. So in this case, you're going deep into the ocean, and you can either go further down and find more things that are perfectly preserved.
Yeah,
because this is not
that's
creating
pretty
fossils.
amazing.
Yeah, interesting.
I want to pull up Discord real fast because we had some questions, some takes, but God, the Mac sucks, dude. Look at this. Unbelievable. Discord. There we go. Open. What were the questions we had? I know we had a couple. Podcast questions. So it looks like 2 this week. Zia, worst food you had in a restaurant with the family. No need for the restaurant name, just like the type of food it was. Huh. See, well, I've said this before on stream, but whenever there's a new restaurant we go to, the first thing I always do, 'cause if I know it's going to be a place that we'll go to more often, you always get the chicken fingers with french fries, honey mustard. The reason you do that is because if they can't make a good chicken finger and french fries, there's no chance anything else on the menu is good. The honey mustard's kind of iffy. It's usually 50% if it's going to be good or not. So I can't really answer this one. I'm trying to think. I hate pork chops. Pork chops are not my thing.
Okay, so I can think of 2 things that come to mind. The first one was our diner burnt down. And we went
that's right,
to
yeah.
another diner,
Yeah.
and it stunk of septic outside.
I don't remember that. Yeah.
And we had somebody with us, and my first reaction was, why are we eating here? That can't be good if it reeks of septic. But then again, you're like, well, the food can't be bad. The food, it wasn't bad, but I just remember thinking, why did we even bother coming?
Yeah, we could have gone anywhere else. Yeah.
Why did we do this? And why did we stay and keep going in and sit down and everything else? It wasn't even crowded. Yeah. And then my other one that I'm thinking of is not even our family. Well, it was Dad's family when they were not younger, I think young adults. Your grandfather went and got Chinese food from the regular place. They ate it at home, so drove all the way home with it. I think Dad drove with him. And, of course, your uncle was eating it. And there was, I think, a cigarette butt in it.
Oh, really?
And he kept eating it. And your grandfather was livid, I think, and drove back with Dad. He took back the food to go complain. And they had gone there lots of times, so it wasn't like they were just trying a place. But it always stands out in my mind that how disgusting is that a cigarette was in the food, which could happen, and that they kept eating it. Like,
Ready? I'll take you another way. Remember, maybe my memory's not right of this one, but Smuggler's Notch, Vermont, right?
Yeah.
I got baby back ribs when we went there. Do you remember this?
Keep going.
I think I got ribs, and it was either undercooked or something, but I got food poisoning. Do you remember how much I was throwing up in the room? Okay, maybe
Dad
I'm making it up in my head or something. No. I just remember throwing up all night when we went there.
Jeez.
All night. That was probably the worst food poisoning I've ever had.
All I know is your brother's at college, and he ate a lot of junk food the other night. And I said, you got to use your head a little bit. It's the end of the semester. They're not using the freshest food at these places because the kids are all leaving.
Right.
You might want to think twice about. And this wasn't even the school food; it was out, at the local stores or whatever. Not a good idea.
I'm trying to think of what other ones were really bad. There was Cape May where this wasn't really bad, but at the time, I'll never forget when our cousin Jessica ordered hot wings for the table. Remember? You never went to Cape May. Yeah. But there's hot wings. It was so unbelievably hot. It was not edible. And Jess and I are just going back and forth trying to eat these wings, and it's because no one else wanted to do it. And Jess got through it. I was like, oh, I can't do this.
Dad and I were just watching a show with Zac Efron where it's like an interview process, but they eat the hottest sauce possible while you're having the interview.
Hot ones, yeah.
Is that what it's called? And he did really well. Even Dad was impressed. He's like, wow, and he would go, oof, that's hot. Ooh, that's a bad one. And kept going. I was impressed by that.
Hopefully one day Sean Evans will reach out to me and say, hey, man, you want to do hot ones? I feel like I'd impress him. I think I could do hot.
Come on.
I love hot sauce. I don't know. Like, they talk about Scovilles and stuff. And
I don't think you've experienced really hot sauce. I can't speak to the Cape May experience, but it's Cape May. How hot could the sauce be?
What's funny is, like, the next year we went, hot ones.
They took it off the menu?
Like, you mean something like this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, God, I can't believe you're so uncultured. How do you not? You have a podcast and you don't know about hot ones?
Well, Pedro Pascal probably do well because that's his culture.
How dare you?
Well, I mean,
why, Mom? Because he's Spanish?
Yeah. Well, no, I think is he Spanish? I don't know, but I assume that this is
Pascal?
Mexican food or spicy food is his background.
Yeah.
Here's your first mistake. I see a picture of water there. Even I know.
You don't do water.
You don't do water.
Milk.
Bread or milk.
Milk. Anything
Anything too spicy.
Carb-based.
To absorb the acids or whatever's in the spicy sauce. I know.
Yeah. Maybe one of these days, you know that they make the hot ones kits, so we can do it here.
No, I don't like spicy foods. I can't eat it.
You can't do spicy at all?
Never liked it. No, I'm not a big Mexican food fan, Spanish food fan. I'm not big. That's not my thing. I do like Peruvian food. Oh, was it Peru? Yeah, from Peruvian. But no, I'm not a spicy.
Do we do it?
$120, not unless they sponsor you.
Yeah, not unless Sean. Well, I don't think they could. I think, right? Stealing their ideas. How much is it? Oh, so you can.
For the pack.
For the pack, so that's all the sauces. But let's break this down though. You're getting high quality sauces. It's not like
it's $144 value.
It's $144 value, but think of how long those sauces are going to last you if you have one every now and then. You know?
Well, yeah, it's probably a drop here, drop there. Yeah. How much you eat of that stuff.
It's not like it's Frank's Red Hot either. It's like actual made. That's actually probably a solid deal when you think about it.
It's got a 5-star review from 292 people.
Show me the sauces. What do we got?
10 of them.
Classic.
Chapicante, pico.
Do they have the last dab? I think you have to go. Oh, they do have the last dab. Yeah. Apollo. Like when something's called Apollo,
yeah, it's just,
let's chill. But see, I don't understand.
It has flames on it.
Yeah, I don't understand Oh, we might have to. Next time Michael's on, we might have to
I
send
don't
that
know
one.
if he does spicy
Michael do
stuff.
spicy. Yeah, Michael do spice. Maybe that'll be my surprise when he comes home. I'll get
Listen,
him.
I paid for an ambulance for him with some food.
Mom, I shit myself.
Cost me a fortune. Absolutely not. He's not doing it.
For the podcast, he and I. Listen, if this does well, if this clip does well, we'll do it. We'll bite the bullet on that one.
Well,
Put
if
it down
they
as a
would like
business
to, if they would
expense.
like to send you a box of it, you can put it on your show and give them the credit they deserve.
You know what we
for their-
should do though? Do you know what the
spices.
what's the name of that chip that everyone tries? We should do that one. The world's hottest chip, even the hottest.
Oh, please.
Shaq did it.
Tutti.
Hottest chip. I was about to write shit, and I was
Yeah.
like, well,
You know
don't
what
need that.
is.
It's called the one. Yeah, there we go. See, that's not bad.
Pocky Chip Challenge.
Yeah, top world's hottest, and you could get them for.
Oh, they're
Fairly cheap.
pre-sauced.
Yeah, it's literally one chip, and people do it, and they go, oh man, this sucks.
Carolina Reaper.
We'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
See, my problem is, what if I'm underwhelmed by it, and now
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh man.
That's a waste, right?
Yeah,
$23.50. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of
for
money.
one chip.
No, it's for a bag, right?
No,
oh,
it's
the
one
one
chip.
chip challenge.
Yeah.
It's a challenge.
See, they're able to capitalize on the name, right?
Only
You're
4
buying the
stars
name.
though. Might not be as good.
Well, we might have to send it for Amazon. Get 2 of them, one for me, one for Michael. Maybe do one more for you if you can handle.
No, I'm not gonna. Don't
Maybe-
bother. I
But yeah, I don't. We usually go not to brag, but we don't really have too many problems with restaurants. Usually, we have
don't
our
go out
set.
much.
Yeah, we have our set.
Yeah.
Well,
We don't go out
well,
much.
we've been going to Tiny Diner for 20, 30 years, so that's all we need. Ray, what would you say is the best restaurant you've been to that we go to regularly?
Oh,
like
that we go to?
that you can go to regularly in this area. Because I think we don't. Or what's one that you think we don't go to enough?
Oh. Well, your viewers aren't gonna care because they're not from here.
Right. Well,
We don't go to enough. I don't know. I don't. We don't have many restaurants that wow me. The place we went to last night, the steaks were very good.
are you gonna
And
give them a shout out? What are you doing?
Do you want me to?
Yeah, go
oh,
for it. What is
Roots,
this?
it's called.
Oh, Roots Chris?
Roots.
Oh, it's literally just Roots.
Roots in Morristown.
Oh, Roots.
Chris' place was packed at 6:15 on a Saturday night. Okay, I was shocked. We were all shocked at that. But the steaks were very good, and I actually threw a question out to your uncle because he knows these steaks. They had cowboy steak.
Cowboy steak.
I'm not fluent, but they had a choice between the dry aged or a wet cowboy steak. Didn't know the difference. They both went with the wet steak. I had the beef Wellington, which was I could have cut that meat with.
Oh,
with
you did a
fork.
I was just telling someone about beef
delicious.
Wellingtons on stream.
However, it turns out it's an opinion or a taste opinion. So really, your dad had the wet one. He should try the dry aged because according to your uncle, that's
I don't like a steak called the wet one.
wet cowboy steak.
Wet
It's
cowboy.
it's the dry aged according to your uncle is much more tender
Probably. Yeah.
and seasoned better. I forget it was 2 things, but again, I've been to steakhouses where the thing was a book, and the steaks all taste the same like any other
That's
steak.
how I feel about steak. I was saying this in the Discord the other day with the boys, and they
But you'd be
said they were like,
surprised
"How
now
dare
when you go to a steak place where they prepare it a certain way. Like now, I'd want to try the difference between the 2 steaks to see the difference in the meat. This particular beef Wellington was extremely. I haven't had a piece of meat that tender in a very long time. Now that is a filet mignon, so it is a tender piece, but it was especially good. So yeah, places like that, we don't go too often because it's not close, not nearby, and nobody here loves food that much that we want to truck all the way to Morristown,
Yeah.
which is far for us, but
Relatively.
just going down the street, right? But for once in a while, I think it's definitely worth it. But it's also like a $40 steak, so it's not cheap to have
Right.
$50 for the.
Well, when we used to go to that place with Papa, there was I forget the name of the steak place back at his old place. That place had that steak, that porterhouse that would feed like a family of 5. That was an interesting, like that I could do every time.
Well, Dad and I were going to split the porterhouse, but then Dad decided he would eat most
Dad's
of it.
like, "Listen."
I would just have a little bit of it. So I was like, yeah, it's up to you, but it wasn't worth it for us to do that.
You know, I feel like we don't go to Cheesecake Factory enough. I feel like
Yeah,
Cheesecake
that's not
Factory.
my.
Cheesecake Factory is. The menu is a book.
Yeah,
You
well.
can go there every day for the rest of your life and get something different. Like
It is.
the
That's the
menu's
kind of place. I
insane.
just don't know. I mean, I haven't eaten there. I only went there once. It's fine for what we needed it for. but
Right.
It's not
That's what I mean. Like, it's not like a high-end restaurant, but for like the medium price range, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
That's like the best restaurant, if you will. I don't know what else would fall into that category. Diner's good, but
We don't go to enough places because apparently there's a great deli in Boundbrook. We never go to Boundbrook. That's not far from. It's not far from here.
nothing beats Steck's Deli.
No, but I'm saying
in New
that
Jersey.
place was on Diners, Digs, Dives, and
Oh
all that
yeah.
stuff. So
But we have our taco place.
right,
Our-
we
that
write
place-
places down
Big
for when we
Pink's
travel
Barbecue,
to
that's
other places.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
a good place too. That's not a restaurant though. It's a van.
It's
so
a van.
Yeah, but the food's
it's
good.
It's amazing. It's the best taco I've ever had
Right.
by far. And it's a barbecue.
One thing that came out of COVID, I don't think just for us, but for a lot of people, you realize you don't have to go out. Everybody does takeout now. Well,
I thought you meant, oh, you could eat at home.
no, I'm saying
No, yeah, we take out more than we go out now. It's
right.
just
And a lot of
faster, it's just
restaurants,
time.
unfortunately, they don't have enough servers. People don't want the job. So if it's a good place, it's crowded and you have bad service, but the food is good. If it's not a great place, the food isn't great, and you still may have bad service.
But here's the
And
problem.
you really realize it's just take it out, pick it up yourself, eat at home.
I've
quiet at
always
home.
noticed though, everywhere we go out, and I think this is like a universal rule that restaurants have. If you take out when it comes to the sides, like the fries and stuff, they give you
Yeah, it
less than
doesn't-
you would.
And it doesn't last.
It doesn't
not
last.
as good as
That's
when
the
it's
other
fresh.
downside.
I
It's the
agree.
downside.
I
So
agree.
like the other day, so this is the positive. When we went to the diner the other day and I got chicken fingers and French fries,
Yeah.
everyone on stream saw they gave me like 12 chicken fingers. I was like, I won the lottery, right? But not a lot of fries. I was
Not
like,
a lot of fries.
bullshit. But
It's not
the chicken
fries.
finger's more important.
Yeah.
So last question. This one's by QAnon. Have you ever thought about living in space and traveling inside a spaceship, going to Mars or some other place? I don't know. Space travel. There's too much to do on this planet for me to travel.
First of all, last night we had the debate. Did they actually go to
Oh,
the
yeah.
moon, the
We
astronauts?
went on last night when my parents got home from dinner with their friends. I mean, we went down a conspiracy loophole for about 2 hours. We just talk conspiracies with Mr. Greta, who has to do the podcast at some point. I need him on.
Yeah.
He's my conspiracy guy.
He's a
He's
hoot.
my Sam Tripoli.
He could do
We're
a whole
Alex Jones.
show just on the pyramids.
Oh, yeah. I love that.
Living in space. Well, naturally, you always think about living in space when they keep talking in our lifetime about space stations
It's not happening.
and space shuttles.
They're not real, Mother. They're not real.
It could happen. I mean, it could happen. I don't know why we wouldn't be able to tackle that. If we can come up with 3 obesity drugs, can't we get a man on the moon? We get a person living in Mars? But that's something I'm dying to do right now. But, something we have to consider if we keep moving towards the destruction of this planet, as we all seem to be angry to do.
I mean, we're getting close. I just don't know if we'll have the mass movements. So what I mean by that is right now we only have spaceships that could take, 6, 7 people. I mean, if you're moving people to other worlds, you need a station that's taking a spaceship that's taking at least 100 people at a time.
Well,
at a
I
minimum.
think something like AI and the advent of AI will move us into the next level of discovery and intelligence and technology and whatnot.
Right.
I'll say that in a good way because there are bad things with it, but I think we're making that step. The advent of electronics was a huge evolutionary change for human beings. I mean,
Right.
that was a big jump. Just bringing in more technology and what people use every day, and it happens so quickly in the scale of human existence. And I think that was the first step. Now when you move into the AI realm, I think a lot of these things that have been slow in coming to fruition, and I'm saying this not as a national thing, I'm saying it as a humanity, global humanity, I think you're going to see more things start to happen more rapidly. And I think it's very interesting. Why now with the UFOs? Why are we hearing so much more about that now? Is it somebody trying to compel us to do things, to start thinking outside of our globe?
Right.
Is it somebody planting information? Is it real? Is it something true? Is there something, other beings out there that we need to start upping our game and be prepared to start working on bigger levels than just this globe?
Right. Now, I think the only option right now, even if it takes 100 years, the only option we really have is to go to Mars because it's the only one that can support life. Like you can't go to a Pluto or a Neptune
That
or
we
whatever.
know of right now, and that's why I say
Well, everything
AI
else
could,
is probably way out of the ballpark
right.
for
But that's why I'm saying AI could take us to a level where we could, quantum
quantum leaps.
physics, quantum, everything else. new areas of relativity, new areas that we can now find ways to propel ourselves going further distances to make
maybe.
it more common. If we survive, humanity survives, it normally keeps growing, thinking, and progressing,
Right.
or at least enough people. And then when you add to it this idea that you could wind up destroying the planet you're currently on,
Well, yeah.
it tends to motivate people and steps up the process.
Well, I'll tell you that I do not want to be the first test subjects on that one.
Yeah, right.
I don't know who's going to want to be the first one, but it's definitely not me. I'll wait.
But you know what? A lot of people said that in the old world for people who got on the Mayflower and went into the sea and had no idea
That is
what
true.
was on the other
That's
side.
true.
Had
Well,
no
but
idea.
they had they thought it was Spain, though, right? They thought they were going down to Spain because they didn't know where they were going in the sense of.
No, they were going to the New World that had been discovered by explorers who had no idea where they were going.
Right.
And they were going back on that path to the New World. They figured, we'll take our chances on the other side of this giant ocean, which we take it for granted. These people had no idea what was there. They just literally got on a ship.
Right, but they knew something was there. Imagine just being launched like, hey, we're just going to go a million miles that way and hope we hit something.
Well, I don't think that'll necessarily happen.
Right.
I think that
You have to map out
you'll
everything.
have to set it up to make it a commercial endeavor for people to actually go from one. I don't think it'll ever be done as like a military type or everybody get on the boat and let's just try it and see what happens. I don't think you can do that.
Right.
That's just not feasible.
All right. So I think we're good. We've gone through everything. So I'm just going to do our last promotions because I have to eat something.
Can I do my challenge?
Oh, okay. Good call. I forgot about this. So no looking at the screen, Mother. I am going to put it up for those of us who don't have the.
Close my eyes anyhow.
So let me. I talked about this in the beginning of the podcast, but
myself.
2 weeks ago when Mom was on the podcast, I cut out a huge part where we did a bunch of fun quizzes, I guess you can call it. And I cut it out because it was we're sharing a computer, but now we have the big screen. So one of those challenges was my mom wanted to see how many presidents she can name. And she only got like 12.
Yeah, it wasn't very good. I drew blanks.
So I won't do the quiz
terrible.
again because we don't have to type it. But presidents in order. So my mom wants to see if she could do all.
I think we
the
had a
presidents
timer
in order.
too, but I don't
It was
think
a
I need
5-minute
the timer.
timer.
Oh, 5 minutes.
Yeah, you could do 5.
Yeah.
So this is all of them in order. No looking.
All right, I'll go this way.
I'll
Can't
tell
see
you-
anything. There's nothing in front
Yep.
of me.
Go
Matter
ahead.
of fact, all right, you ready?
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Patience, because I'm an old lady.
Well, hold on. Talking to the mic though. Let's not.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got. Can't see.
Yep.
Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, Quincy Adams, Jackson, Van Buren, Harrison, Tyler, Polk, Taylor,
Yep.
Fillmore, Pierce, Buchanan, Lincoln, Johnson, Grant, Hayes, Garfield, Arthur, Cleveland, Harrison, Cleveland, McKinley, Teddy Roosevelt, Taft, Calvin Coolidge.
Nope.
Oh, hold on. Woodrow Wilson,
yep.
Harding, Calvin Coolidge, Herbert Hoover, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Truman, Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, Ford, Carter, Reagan, Senior Bush,
Nope. Oh yes. I'm sorry.
Senior Bush, Clinton, Junior Bush, Obama, Trump, and Biden.
Wow, that was impressive. Not a.
Did I get them all?
Yeah, you got
In
every
order?
single one in order. That was impressive. That was definitely redeeming. The way we did it last time
Under
was
5 minutes.
Yeah, under 5 minutes. Yeah, definitely. That was under like 2, but much better than we did last time. Last time we did it, it was a quiz that was just name as many as you can, and we did not do well. When you could do it in order, it's probably a little easier. Did you just memorize it, or did you do like a little? Because I remember when I learned it the first time, you do the whole.
Well, I memorized it. Certain ones that were not popular, like for instance, Pierce, Buchanan, and Lincoln.
Yeah.
So for me, the memory was you have to pierce the cannon for Lincoln, and the Lincoln with cannon.
Oh, that's it.
war.
So you did do like a little pattern or
Just
something.
with that area, because some of them I remember, like Johnson. I knew. We all know Andrew Jackson. We all know. I knew Van Buren. The Harrisons. I knew the father, and I believe it's the son or grandson. both presidents, and I knew somebody was between Cleveland. Cleveland was 2-time president, right?
Gotcha.
And there was a break, so yeah.
That was impressive.
Thank you.
Now we're gonna do vice presidents next.
Oh, who cares?
So,
Well, some of them were also presidents, right?
Yeah,
so
that's
it's a
true.
repeat.
So we just did an hour 30. That's 43. So the only thing I have to promote, I only put out one video last week besides the podcast just because of all the traveling. So the podcast with Kenny, number 42, right there. So that's on YouTube and Spotify.
Oh, I didn't
and
see
then,
the Kenny one. I should watch that.
That's Kenny right there.
Yeah, I know.
No,
I
don't
know
watch that
Kenny.
one.
No.
You don't want to watch that one.
Okay, forget it.
Bad idea.
No.
And then the Minecraft Legends was last Wednesday. I didn't post anything for Friday because we just did the live stream of the new Jedi Survivor game. So now today, we're recording this on Sunday because the Greta's were over. Today is going to be the speed run for Fairly Odd Parents. Remember that show? That was a good one. So I did that one. And then this week I still have to do a bunch of recordings
Timmy
tonight.
something.
So
Timmy
Turner.
Timmy Turner.
Yeah, remember?
Whoa!
Do you remember the fairies' names?
No.
Cosmo and Wanda.
Okay.
Remember? I like those.
Yeah. I can picture them.
Yeah. So and then they have it's funny you say that because that's like when the whole transgender thing kind of started. Now I'm gonna say, like, if there was a starting point, there's a crazy season where basically Cosmo the male has a baby, but this was before the whole trans thing.
Yeah.
Was as big as it was.
Grooming kids.
You
back
know what?
Then.
Now that I think about it, Fairly Odd Parents started it.
Yeah, they're grooming kids back then with Fairly Odd Parents.
So that's pretty much it. This one comes out on Monday as well as on Spotify on Tuesday. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. So we'll end it there. Social media down below, promo codes down below, other stream links down below, and Discord down below for more questions. Tell us what you guys think about the monitor. We'll keep it here. I have to look at it and post and see if you guys can even see anything. It might be too bright. But yeah. So that's it. We'll see you guys in the next one.